But first, what happens in D.C. doesn't stay in D.C. President Trump expanding his crackdown on crime and illegal immigration beyond the nation's capital. In fact, the administration is now planning to deploy 1,700 National Guard troops to 19 states over the next few weeks, and that should be very interesting. And with that, we welcome you to another hour of Fox News Live. I'm Kevin Corke here in Washington. With more, we want to head over to the White House, the North Lawn to be specific. That's where we find my buddy Lucas Tomlinson, who has more on what has been a very busy week for the president. Hey, LT.
It sure has. Good morning, Kevin. And the Pentagon says over 2,000 National Guard soldiers are patrolling the streets of the nation's capital right now. And President Trump says they could be deployed to other big cities as well.
We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent.
Yeah, so Mayor Brandon Johnson, how did he win an election? It's confusing. How did he win an election? I am upset whenever I see incompetent people of color because he's incompetent. And incompetence comes in different shapes and sizes. It could be deliberate incompetence where you're literally intentionally destroying your city. Or it can be gross incompetence where no matter how hard you try, you don't just have the ability to run a city, a state, or a country efficiently. So you have the likes of Brandon Johnson saying the unhinged things that he says about law and order being offered to his city, and he's like, Trump is a threat to humanity. Again, how did he win an election?
And we'll straighten that one out probably next. So I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with New York.
If you're watching and you're from the Chicago area or Illinois, okay, let me know what you think about Donald Trump sending the National Guard to your city. Let me know what you think about that. Because we have people in the media trying to tell us that nobody wants this to happen in these cities. And then when you go to the streets and talk to people, they're like, yes, please, we need help.
Now, last year, Kevin, the murder rate in D.C. was on par with Chicago and nearly 4 times higher than Los Angeles and nearly 6 times higher than New York. Last hour, Congressman Pat Fallon told you D.C. needs to be cleaned up.
Even with D.C. hooking the books on their crime statistics, you're 3.5 times more likely to be killed in D.C. than you were in 2012 when a serious crime is committed.
And that's the thing that I found shocking. They'd been cooking the books, they've been fudging the numbers for a long time. And in spite of all that, they were still recording high crime rates with fudged numbers. How bad is it really? And that's the question. How bad is it?
And from 2018 to 2023, carjackings are up 550%. So things are out of control. And thank goodness President Trump has taken these, again, bold actions.
As you mentioned off the top, 1,700 National Guard members will also be deployed in 19 states. The White House says they will help DHS with clerical support for processing illegal aliens at ICE facilities. Now, yesterday, FBI agents raided the home of Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, after returning to.
All right, so I'm going to keep this short. Now, do you agree with Donald Trump's deploying the National Guard to 19 states? To get the same results that they just got in Washington, D.C. I've watched leftist pundits talk about how Trump is setting up himself as an authoritarian leader, that this is one more step towards authoritarianism. And this is just the left accusing Donald Trump of the thing that they themselves have been wanting to do for decades. We just talked about the shooting and how the go-to for leftists and for Democrats is let's take away the guns. And I've said again and again on this platform that every time someone tries to take away your guns, they are moving you closer and closer to an authoritarian setup where they hold the monopoly on violence and then you are at their mercy. It happened in Nazi Germany. It has happened in England. It's happened in every country, every socialist country under the sun. They don't want the people to have the power to defend themselves. Because once you take that power to defend themselves away, the next thing that goes away is your speech. The right to bear arms is a right that gives you the ability to defend your free speech. Everywhere that right has been taken away, people do not have free speech. So I'm raising this alarm because this has to be something that everyone knows, because you have a lot of mainstream media trying to shield everyone else from the consequences of these policies. We see the consequences of extreme gun control in these blue states and cities. We see how violent crime has gone up. But in the states where gun control isn't as extreme as you see in those blue states and cities, you don't see these high crime rates. So it's very important that we call these things out. We identify them and say, here's the picture. Here's the real picture. Take note of this, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's look at what's going on in the comment section. All right, so we have Matthew says, this is amazing. Prayers for President Trump's safety. God bless America. Send the National Guard to Oregon, please. Right, if you're watching and you're from a city or a state that needs the National Guard, leave a chat. I want to see it in the live chat. All right. If you live in the United States and you believe that your city or your state needs the National Guard, put it in there. If you know of a city or a state that hasn't been mentioned in this news report that needs the National Guard, put it in the chat. Who knows? Maybe the White House will run into this live stream and see it. Okay. So please put it in the live chat. So Oregon needs the National Guard. Yeah, we wouldn't want to be focusing on real problems or anything. Yeah, and that's the thing. Jen Psaki, in my last report, basically accused President Trump of being responsible for the shooting because he deployed the National Guard to Washington, D.C. Asinine, insane, but you know what? That hasn't stopped them from saying these things yet. Boston needs cleaning up. Send lots and lots of ICE agents. Criminal activity is very, very high. Boston. Okay. When will the feds be sent to Aurora, Colorado? When? Look, the actual citizens are calling for these measures to be taken. But the Democrat leadership is saying this is authoritarianism. This is Trump being a dictator. You had that pastor, okay, saying the same thing. And when I hear people talk like that, and they're supposed to have common sense because the Bible teaches us common sense, I doubt whether they've been paying attention to the Bible. I agree that those states need more attention with safety. Okay, I forgot to I'm going to make this a habit. When I see a comment that I agree with, I'm going to like it. All right? I'm going to like it. All right, so one or two more comments. Seattle needs intervention as well. Look, these are blue cities. These are blue states and cities. And the people who live there are calling for help because law enforcement has been removed from these spaces. And so violent crime is through the roof. One more comment. All right. Hideaway Retreat says, keep the National Guard at all sanctuary cities permanently. It's been amazing. No more third world cities. I agree.